Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a hard look at a system that pretty much dictates every single aspect of our lives, and yet it rarely comes with an instruction manual, right? I mean, picture the global financial system as this massive, high-stakes game. We're all forced to play it the second we hit adulthood. But the crazy part? Most of us were never actually taught the rules. We literally just get thrown onto the board and are expected to figure it out as we go. Well, today, we are going to change that. We're going straight to the source material to uncover the hidden mechanics of this game, and we're going to translate all that dense financial jargon into clear, actionable knowledge. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive right into this level map. We'll be navigating through 5 key zones today. First up, the cost of civilization. Then, where your money goes. Third, the silent financial engines. Fourth, scorecards and economic slumps. And finally, number 5, how to win the game.
Part 1. The cost of civilization, taxes.
All right, so we're starting with what is arguably the very first real frustration of adulthood. You know the feeling? You work incredibly hard, you put in the hours, and you are just eagerly awaiting that paycheck. But when it finally hits, a massive chunk of it is just missing, gone before you can even touch it. Imagine you've been slaving away for a month, flipping burgers at McDonald's. Your boss says you've earned $2,000. Awesome. But then your bank account only sees $1,456. The rest of those slices, federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare, they're all just scooped up by invisible forces, and they kind of expect you to say thank you. Here's why, though. Fundamentally, taxes are the cost of civilization. The government takes this money to, build roads, fund schools, and make absolutely sure your favorite taco truck isn't infested with rats. Social Security? That's basically the government forcing you to save for retirement right now so they can pay it back to you later. And Medicare acts as a health insurance tax to support the elderly or folks with serious health issues.
Now, there are a few different ways the government actually collects this cost of civilization. You've got income tax, which hits the money you make, sales tax hits the money you spend, and capital gains tax, that hits the money your investments made while you were literally sleeping. Yeah, it really does seem like they take a little bite out of every single dollar. And the wildest part, when it comes to actually filing your taxes, the government sets up this bizarre guessing game. They already know exactly what you owe, but they make you figure it out. And if you guess wrong, you're in trouble. It's super annoying, I know, but our source material does remind us of a crucial silver lining here. Countries with higher tax rates generally boast a correspondingly much higher quality of life all around.
Moving on to Part 2. Where your money goes, banks and currency.
So after you've paid the government their share, you take whatever's left over and you store it. But this actually brings us to a massive illusion about where your money really sits once it leaves your hands. To understand this, we have to recognize a huge fundamental truth. Currency, money, is just a social construct. It is entirely built on shared belief and trust. I mean, think about it. A dollar bill only has more buying power than some random stick you find on the ground because we, as a society, have collectively agreed that it does. That's it. It's just a shared belief. And because it's purely a social construct, central banks have to heavily regulate it. If governments just print too much of it, inflation kicks in, and suddenly your cash turns into monopoly money. But if there's too little, well then no one can afford to live.
This shared trust extends directly to our banks, too. When you walk into a bank and hand over your cash, you probably picture going down into some massive underground vault guarded by a dragon just sitting there waiting for you, right? But in reality, the bank is just a middleman. They're a financial matchmaker. Thanks to a system called fractional reserve banking, when you deposit $1,000, the bank takes $900 of it and immediately lends it out to someone else, maybe someone who wants to buy a jet ski. They only keep a tiny fraction of your money on hand. Basically, they're betting on the fact that not everyone is going to show up on the exact same day and try to withdraw 100% of their funds.
I know. Hearing that your money is out there right now buying some stranger a jet ski sounds absolutely terrifying. Like, what if the whole system crumbles like it did back in 2008? Well, the source provides a very reassuring number here. $250,000. In the US, the government actually insures bank deposits up to this exact amount, per person. So this means that no matter what crazy stuff the bank does with your cash, your money up to $250K is completely safe. Which, let's be honest, makes the bank infinitely safer than hiding your cash in a shoebox under your bed. Plus, they actually pay you a tiny bit just to hold it there.
All right, Part 3, the silent financial engines, interest and inflation.
Let's talk about the invisible, totally silent forces that operate entirely behind the scenes. These forces are constantly working to either drastically grow your wealth or quietly destroy it. Now, what's really interesting about this is the profound difference in how interest operates. Basically, interest is money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands. If you're borrowing, it's a penalty. But if you're saving, it's a reward. Simple interest is exactly what it sounds like, a flat fee. Thanks for playing. But compound interest? Oh man, that's where every single dollar gets clones, and then those clones demand rent too. Miss a credit card payment at 20% interest? Suddenly your $12 late-night burrito turns into a $50 financial regret. But on the flip side, if you invest at, say, a 7% annual compound interest rate, your $100 turns into $200, then $400, duplicating itself like a total cheat code until one day you just wake up wealthy. It's either the slow burn that starts a financial fire, or it's the time bomb that creates a massive win.
But there's another silent engine we really need to discuss. And it's one we literally all feel every time we go to the grocery store. Picture this. You open a bag of chips. It's half empty, as usual. But then you check the receipt and realize, wait, I just paid 30% more for this than I did last year? So why does that happen? You, my friend, have just been hit by inflation. It's not some sudden crazy explosion. It is the slow, quiet erosion of your money's value over time. Your $5 bill is still technically a $5 bill, but it buys less gas and way fewer instant noodles than it used to. Why? Usually, it just comes down to supply and demand. Imagine 2,000 people have cash and they all want this new $500 TV. But the store only has 1,000 TVs in stock. The business realizes this and goes, hey, let's just raise the price to $800. Now, a little bit of inflation, like 2% a year, is perfectly normal. But when it spikes out of control, the government has to step in and fight it by raising interest rates. This makes getting a loan way more expensive, which leaves people with less money to spend on things like those TVs. And eventually, that cools off the entire economy.
Which brings us to part 4, scorecards and economic slumps, credit and recessions.
So when the game does slow down, how does the financial system actually grade you? And what happens during those inevitable economic downturns? Think of the economy like a massive raging party. During the boom phase, years 1 to 5, everyone's dancing, jobs are everywhere, and money is just flowing. You reach the peak. But eventually, the lights flicker, reality hits, someone checks their bank account, the stock market drops, layoffs happen, and suddenly the DJ's playing sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. That is the bust, also known as a recession. It's officially defined as the economy decreasing for at least 6 months. But look at year 7. Reset. Recessions are incredibly painful, yes, but they aren't forever. It's literally just the economic cycle doing what it does best, clearing out the excess so that businesses can rebuild and growth can eventually resume. Now, while the economy is doing its whole boom and bust cycle, lenders are constantly evaluating you. They use this shadowy algorithm that generates a 3-digit number somewhere between 300 and 850. Yep, your credit score. This is essentially your adult report card. And here's the thing. It doesn't measure how wealthy you are. It measures trust. It simply answers the lender's big question. If I give this person money, are they actually going to pay me back? If your score is sitting below 580, you are basically a walking red flag to lenders. But if you score over 750, you are sparkling with adult credibility. That unlocks the big stuff: houses, cars, and much, much better interest rates.
So how is this adult report card actually graded? Well, it looks heavily at your payment history. That is the biggest factor by far. It also looks at how much of your available credit you are actively using, how long you've had your accounts open, the variety of your loans, and how many new applications you've submitted recently. The source material makes this great comparison. Your credit score is basically like a pet dog. If you ignore it and miss your payments, it is going to poop all over your life. But if you take care of it and you feed it with consistent, on-time payments, someday it might just help you buy a house. And remember this, you can have absolutely zero debt and still have a trash score if you don't have any credit history. It's not just about being good with money, it's about looking good to the lenders.
Finally, part 5. How to win the game: investing, value, and time.
Look, the game might seem totally rigged against you, but if you learn the rules, you can absolutely rig it back in your favor. And this brings us to the most empowering part of the explainer: how to actually win this thing using investing, value, and time. To combat inflation and stop trading your literal time for money, your money needs to start working for you. That's what investing is. But what are you actually buying? Well, stocks are just tiny ownership slices of real companies. Bonds? That's you playing the bank, loaning money to a government or a company in exchange for interest. Funds just bundle all these together so you don't have to stress about picking them individually. And real estate is simply property that you hope someone else pays to live in. Now, yes, investing always comes with the risk of markets going up and down. But listen closely. The real danger isn't losing some money in the market. The actual terrifying danger is never investing at all and just watching inflation quietly steal your entire future.
So the crucial point here is understanding the concept of value. Imagine picking up just an average rock off the ground. Now imagine that rock is shiny and yellow, gold. Gold isn't inherently worth more than a driveway rock. It's just worth more to humans because we place a much higher perceived value on its rarity. Creating value is literally the ultimate cheat code for earning wealth. Think about it. Steve Jobs created the iPhone, providing massive value, and millions of people happily handed him thousands of dollars for it. It's exactly why top doctors earn so much, and it's why brands like Gucci can get away with charging 100 times the price of a standard Target handbag. If you provide, or even just figure out how to project a large amount of value to society, you are going to earn a large amount of money.
But out of everything, there is one asset that completely rules them all. And the best part? Almost everyone starts with a lot of it. Time. Time is the most valuable asset in the world. Most of us go through life trading 1 hour for 1 paycheck. But the top earners, they have trained their hours to multiply. And nowhere does time work harder for you than in investing. True wealth isn't built in days, guys. It is built in decades. A little bit of money invested consistently, combined with that crazy power of compound interest we talked about, and given enough time, it becomes a massive amount. It's not magic. You don't need to get lucky and win the lottery. You literally just need to be patient and let the system work for you over decades.
Which leaves us with this final, absolutely critical thought to end on today. The rules of the game are set. Taxes will always be collected, banks are going to lend out your deposits, and inflation will constantly try to erode the cash in your pocket. The deciding factor in whether you win or lose this game ultimately comes down to one simple mechanic. Interest is either your worst enemy, burning your finances straight to the ground through debt, or it is your absolute best unpaid employee, quietly duplicating your wealth through investments. So as you look at your own financial game board today, ask yourself, who is collecting yours?